Welcome back to Retro Wednesday, the Titanium Hanger. This is Mike, and I'm coming at you with the 1983 G.I. Joe Headquarters Command Center. This playset is almost a must-have to any vintage collector out there that's collecting G.I. Joe, and also works very well for modern figures. If you're collecting the new stuff that's out that they call retro, or if you collect the 25th anniversary or anything in between, it fits in this, works with this really well, and this is a great way to display it. Today I'm going to talk to you about the different components of the playsets, the pluses, the minuses, all the good and the bad. All this is coming up. Let's take a quick look at the box, and it is in rough shape, but it's still a box and it looks good. You see the command center on there right there. You see down here kind of showing you what it looks like from the back. It's all open, what it looks like empty, what it looks like with figures that are sold separately. Looking at the top, you've got kind of like a Kenner style where you have a nice sticker in the front and you have kind of a line drawing here, but there's at least some color. The Kenner was just pure black and white. Looking at the back of it, it's actually upside down. And looking at the back of this here, it does show that you have all of these different features. This is the one from 1983. And I heard there was an error on it that they say there are foot pegs, so I don't know, I don't see that on the writing on this one here, but then again, I might just be missing it. But there it is, there's another big picture, and I'm just surprised that this thing survived all these years. So when you go to get a playset, generally this playset looks like this. When somebody's selling it, you find it at a sale, a garage sale, or whatever, most of the time it's not set up. That's one of the problems with this playset. Now, I was lucky enough that I stumbled across a couple of mine already pre-set up, but the one I have now isn't already set up. This is an extra one that I plan to use down the road for some other projects. So as an adult collector, I appreciate this playset for what it is, and it is a display piece. That's really what this is. It serves as a display piece. As a playset, when I was a kid, I had one. Now, I got one used at a garage sale, and I didn't have all the parts for it, and I didn't really care, but I didn't like the fact that it was so open to the top, to the back. I didn't feel like it closed up like a real fort. As a kid, I didn't think it really matched the TV show very well. I didn't think that it was close enough. Like, it sort of had the look to it, but it just didn't quite match it to the level I wanted it to. But with the negatives out of the way, it does match the cartoon to sort of the contour. It has the look of the cartoon, and it was originally in the comics introduced as kind of a drop down portable base. But with this thing, it does have a lot of cool features with it. First thing I want to talk about are these additional little add-on pieces that are all around here. So you see these guns and the spotlight or searchlights, so all of those, but there's something interesting about those. So those are all simply reused parts from this watchtower. So they just used existing pieces to put on this playset. Now, as a kid saying, hey, I already have that with my watchtower, probably thought it was kind of a cheap cop-out of what was going on. But as an adult collector, it's like, well, it makes them a lot easier to get your hands on. They're more frequent, more common. So I kind of like that. But looking at this, I mean, we can pull this one in a little bit easier. It's a nice looking machine gun, and it works. It gets the job done. I think that paint was added by somebody else, not me. Here is a spotlight right there, and that spotlight does look like a spotlight as it gets the job done. And you know, it would really be cool if they did have some sort of a plastic piece in there, like a clear plastic piece, to make it look more like a spotlight. That would have been cool, but then tracking down those clear plastic pieces would be a nightmare. Now, looking at this, according to the instructions, this big gun here is a double devastation cannon. So this is a double devastation cannon, and that's from this supply list here of all of the different things that comes with this. So the blueprints that come with it show you how to put it together and all of that fun stuff, and they show you, yeah, all of the more or less all the features. I don't think they really show you all the features very well with these instructions, but that list there is very helpful for identifying everything. The major problem with this dual devastation cannon here is the fact that it is open, and it's kind of open just like you see with the tank. Right over here we have the same problem with the tank, but the thing is that is what separates an actual toy that's fun with a display piece. So if you're just setting your figures up to display it, it looks really nice. If you're wanting to actually have something that's tactically going to work, then this isn't for you. Next thing I want to move on to is the helipad, and one of the really cool things about this playset is that it does have a helipad, which is, it's kind of plain and boring, but you could go online and say buy 3 or 4 more helipads, which I have not yet, but I had planned to, but it actually wouldn't fit in my space, so I didn't get it yet. But you could get a bunch of helipads, and it would make sense to have several of these helipads and have all your helicopters on it. It actually would fit comfortably. You could put on there your Tomahawk, so it would work. I haven't tested it so much, but I did the measurements, and it looks like it would work just fine. I don't see why it wouldn't. But most people put their Dragonfly on it. We're going to take a look at this playset on the back end, or from the back end. And I have to say, from the back, it actually does look really cool. One of the features, or the pieces of this that made me not like this, is because it was open in the back and open in the top and open in the sides, and I really felt like it was just kind of a bunch of panels thrown together when I was a kid. But right now, as a display piece, and you can see everything going on in there, it is really cool that it's open from the back. This makes it so much better as a display piece or a diorama piece. So we're going to take a look at this section here, and I'm moving it at an angle since it does separate. It's real easy. You can just separate it, slide it, and then tab it back in together with these 2 tabs into those 2 slots. And it has a few functions and a few features here. Now, first of all, I am going to show you from this angle. It's better to see. This is the infrared camera, and it clips on from the back. Now, a lot of these pieces break real easily, and I actually have several infrared cameras that are broken, so it feels kind of sad that when they break and they can't clip on anymore, they almost feel worthless, unless you have some maybe sticky tack, which I don't really know where to get that in the US, but it's a lot of thing I hear Canadians talk about, sticky tack. Another thing is that you can, it has an opening, so you could put the tank here and just is add to your arsenal of shooting. Looks pretty good, and it works. It gets the job done. But another problem with this here is all of these little pieces here, they do kind of look cool, but they do break. Like the little tabs, they break so easy that hold these in. So it is a challenge with this to get that. But when you look at it, you can actually see this thing where you've got room to walk in and out of the separate different rooms. So now with the tank out of there are a couple of really cool features in this. First feature here being this weapons rack. So of course you want to load the weapons rack up with weapons, and that is something that you think about as a kid. You probably don't have all your figures completely outfitted with all of their gear, but as an adult you probably display them with all of their gear. So it'd be a good place to throw your extras. I mean, any Joe collector probably has a handful of extra weapons laying around. That'd be a great place to stash them. We also have this panel that it sits under the tank, and you can remove the panel, and I never really understood why there was this obsession with cutting out these card backs, but you could take your card backs and put your card backs in there, and I just don't know why people liked to cut those out. I never did. I don't really have mine from childhood, but I never cut them out. I kept the card backs as a kid. I kept a couple of them, the ones I liked the most. These are from my friend Philip. Now this whole playset is from my buddy Philip, and he sold me his whole collection a couple months back, and I'm very proud to have bought that from him and honored that he sold it to me. And every single day as I see how well he kept up with his collection and all of these things, that I am so appreciative of this. But this is really cool that he has all these little card backs with it too. Let's put that back in properly. There we go. Taking a closer look at this main section, there's something right back here that you can see. We do have this radar, and it is a radar. I was thinking it was a satellite, and you could kind of tune in some TerraVision or something like that, but from the 80s. And then here's an antenna, which these pieces here are probably easily lost and not too hard to replace. Cool thing about this playset is you can get all these pieces for a relatively good price. Right here we actually have a storage compartment. You lift this up, and inside you do have 2 different trays to store some stuff, and this is pretty cool. And I guess I could use it to store this. I was just leaving Doc's thing there, but see, there's enough space. I could probably put that in there too, so that really works out. That's a pretty cool part, so you don't lose all your pieces. So looking at this, you have the command center console. It actually folds down for whatever reason, if you got all the figures out of the way, it'll fold down and then flip up to show all of this. My stickers aren't as good as I probably would like, but yeah, it says "Foosh Bam." You can. This is a monitor. They can see what's going on outside and all the fighting that's going on. And there's all these other different instruments and monitors. Now stickers don't hold up so well. I think these are in good shape for what this is, but at the end of the day, they don't hold up really all that well. So looking over here, we do have some stair steps going up to another little area where you would have this big gun. And of course I have the hovercraft pilot manning that, and that's because, well, there's no hovercraft around for him to sit in right now. But it does look pretty good. I like the way this works out with this big gun here. It's an extra gun on top of the big major gun. Here's another look at the interior, and there are some stickers in here also which are not doing the best or holding up. You can see that this platform here walks up. So this whole back piece here, this is all one section, and then the front piece is another section. So it's kind of cool how it's pretty simple to assemble in a way, and when you kind of clip this to this, it holds that gun in place a lot better. So looking at it from here, this is supposed to be a power generator, so I guess when the power goes out, they don't lose their power with a removable cover, removable cap. That's something interesting, and something that they see a lot of in G.I. Joe. Next up we have the stockade. They call it I call it the prison. And yeah, it doesn't sit together so well. It's real flimsy. I think you're actually supposed to open it outward. But I think I fight with this a lot. I don't like using it. I just completely avoid the door. Avoid the Noid. But anyway, this is where you would store some of Cobra's henchmen. I had an extra Major Blood laying around, so I threw him in there so that my other Cobra scene still looks pretty good, and that works out for this whole scene here. We have the motor pool, and I do want to point a few things out about this motor pool, but the first thing I want to say is that it has this lift mechanism, and I do think that if you try to leave this lift mechanism up, let's get this all in frame here, but if you leave it up, I like to keep it reinforced, but well, now it's holding up just fine. But with the lift mechanism, this thing will hold up whatever vehicle, and there's a multitude of different vehicles that'll work with. It, as you can see right here, it doesn't really look like it was designed for this one, but it still works with this one. So here it is without a vehicle in it. This is the lift, and you kind of have to lift up on the lever and close it. And so there's a reason for this. It's made for mostly the vamp, and then you can put some of the cannons on there. You can also put, it's got special slots so that you could put the snow speeder in there and all of that good stuff. So that really works out well, and that's a cool feature for this, but it still worked for my AW Striker, which is my favorite, which is going to stay on display. I do want to point out this thing also has a weapons rack. Just like the other side, you can store your excess weapons there, so there's a lot of places to store your weapons, so your figures don't have to tote them around and carry them around, and that works out pretty well. As you notice on this side, you also have another port for guns, and I think that's usually used for a vamp. I guess you could turn it backwards and have the gun hanging out the back like that. So I see a lot of people display it, but I have to admit, for me personally, I like the AW Striker more than the vamp, so the AW Striker wins that slot. So one of the questions I had was, what if you cleared out the 3 3/4 inch figures and tossed in some G.I. Joe classifieds? What would it look like? And, you know, over here, since we have no real vehicles just yet for this line, other than a Cobra, what is that, coil? This could be an area where they congregate. This could be an area where, like, someone could man that gun, and it would look a lot better than actually a 3.75 inch figure manning that gun. Down here in the stockade, it does house them, but, you know, it's open top, open roof, so when they sit, they're just a little bit above the gel. I'm sure you could work it to where they get flush even with it, and they could sort of lay down in there if that's something you want. And over here, you could have her sitting on the top of the chair, and it still looks pretty good. I'm still toying with a bunch of different ideas on how to display the classified figures, and this might be one. I might have to get this second one I have finished out and completed so I can display my classified figures with it. What do you think? So whether you're using this for 6-inch Joes or like it's supposed to be for 3 3/4 inch, which the 3 3/4 inch still makes way more sense than putting 6-inch in here, there are no foot pegs. So there would be no spot that a 3 3/4 inch figure could plug in. You would need stands. Most of these 3 3/4 inch figures, especially these 30, 40-year-old ones, do not stand up very well. So with that, the classified figures, well, they don't stand very well either, but they don't have to worry about trying to move it around so it's not standing on a peg. So there's a plus and a minus for this thing having absolutely no pegs in it. This has been our look at the G.I. Joe headquarters from the 1983 Command Center. It is an excellent display piece. Probably not as much play value as you would see with some of the newer play sets from the G.I. Joe line or the later ones that they made. And not as many play features as I wanted as a kid. But as an adult collector, I appreciate this as a display piece. Let me know, did you have this one? Did you have this back in the day? Do you use it today? Like, subscribe, hit your finger out.